Okay, normal cello. So, in order to learn that piece, I think I played lots of scales, different kinds of scales. So, do we have students from book one to book? What do we have, Maria? The level of our students here.
We have only one student from book one. Well, we have two, Senor Henrik
Okay.
and Pedrito.
Well, we Suzuki teachers believe in review, and I think it's good for everybody to go back to book one a little bit. So grab your cellos. um, of course, the three scales we play in book one are D, G, and C. And C we play 2 octaves, and G I teach 2 octaves also. I always teach scales in book one and two, starting from the top to the bottom, descending, not ascending, then ascending afterwards. Because if you start from the top, your hand is shaped. It shapes the hand properly because you start with 4 fingers down. So, the first thing I want everybody to do is to reach out with your hand like this, straight out. It's your cello hand. That's it. And curve your fingers. And keep your fingers kind of close to each other. Don't try to spread them out. And just put the fingers on the A string, a little bit on the inside of the string. And I want all your power going into your pinky. But I want the other 3 fingers down. And I want you to be able to move the other fingers like a butterfly wing, lightly, so that there's no power going through them. Yeah? But the power is here. So when we play our scale, let's say we're playing a French folk song scale. Pardon, I'm in the wrong place. Yeah, right now my power is in my pinky. It's really not in these fingers. They're touching the string, but there's no power in them. I'm not putting power in 4 fingers. And I do not put my first finger on B. Because I want the 3 to be very close to the 4. And then, depending on the size of your hand, I need to reach back a little bit for B. Some people have big hands and they don't have to. You'll just have to find out. So when I'm on 3, there is no power in my second and first finger. They can flutter like a butterfly. And then the same thing on the D string. I do not try to put my fingers over the notes. I put them loosely together, power in 4th finger. That way, 3rd finger will be close. And because I have small hands, I reach for E. Yeah? So can we play this French folk song scale together? So we play 9 short notes and 1 long note. Okay? And then we will repeat the D. That way, climbing up. As you climb up, when I'm on 1 and then I go to 3, you must release the power in these 2 fingers so they can flutter like a butterfly. Don't keep adding power in your hand because you'll add tension. Okay? So here's our basic scale. Let's do a French folk song scale. Ready, set, go. notes. We arrive with our power and our fourth finger, but our other three fingers are really, really loose. This is the butterfly test. You've got to be able to flutter your wings like a butterfly when you're playing on the other one. Yeah? Okay. If you're having trouble with this, talk to your thumb. Because if your thumb is squeezing, then you cannot flutter like a butterfly. Yeah? You can practice this on your cello. Put your pinky down strong on your cello and flutter your other fingers like a butterfly. Yeah? So this is what I do in book 1. I make my students name the half steps in all their scales. And they hate it. They have to say D, C sharp, G, F sharp, in all their scales, especially in the C scale, because I want them to realize that E and F and B and C, E and F and B and C. It's not second finger straight across for the natural notes. So I do that. They hate it. I make them do it anyway, just because I'm a mean teacher. So that's the way it goes. All right, let's go to book 2. In book 2, we have forward extensions, both this way and both back and forward. Rodney Farrar calls this one an anchored shift. You anchor the tip of your first finger and everything shifts forward, including your thumb and your arm and your elbow and the works. So I like that name for it, but most people call it a forward extension, right? So I'll show you how I teach the D scale. So we start at the top, always at the top, at least book 1 and 2, and sometimes even book 3. This is the easy part, right? Don't play yet, just watch. Right here, open D, do not extend. A half step shift. Put your hand down just the way it was on the A string. All your fingers relaxed. Then 2. And now, and only now, we make an extension. And we stay extended till we arrive back on the open D, where we must shift back a half step. Which hold up the thumb that you think measures the shift, or the finger that measures the shift. I gave it away. It's your thumb that measures the half step shift, because we are playing an open D. What I don't want to see is this. In mi vida, or in my life, I want to be extended the least amount of time as a cellist. So I always get my extensions ready at the absolute last minute, and I get rid of them as soon as I can. So when I'm going up the scale, when I put down 2, I relax this finger, even though I'm going to use it again on the G string. I don't want my students accumulating fingers and ending up like this. This is not a good idea for your hand. Okay, so let's do that together without any bows. No bows. So we have 4 on the A string. Remember, this is your balance. Not like this, right? 4 on the A string. 3, 1, open A. 4, 3, 1, open D. Shift a half step up. Put your 4th finger down with your 3rd finger. 4, 2, now extension. Open string, keep your hand relaxed. 4, 2, 1, 2, 4, open, 1, 2, 4, open. Now we shift back a half step and we finish our scale just like we did in book 1. What I don't want to see, and And this is the reason I do not start at the bottom. I don't want to see somebody playing D and then stretching out their second finger for E. This method. Yeah. So that's the idea. Okay. Maria's fixing something. Can we all try that together slowly? And let's do slow bows. Let's go 1, 2, 1, 2. So we have time to think about our actions. Ready? Go. 1, 2. Now 3. No tension in your other fingers. Half step shift with your thumb. Second finger. And now extending. And once again extending. Put your second finger down, relax your first finger. Relax your second finger. And after that, I think I have the wrong view here for some reason. I can't see myself on the screen. I just see the name Jackie Romero. Hi, Jackie. But I can see the little thing. Okay. Then I make my students play this scale starting on open D. I call this the inside out D scale. Starting and ending on open D. So you go up, you go down 2 octaves, and then you return to the first one. Basically, that's it. And basically, those are our scales in book 2, except for maybe we can do a G minor scale for the 2 Grenadiers. And then in book 3, we learn a few more major and minor scales, which are printed in the back of the book. And they're pretty standard fingerings. I always watch and make sure that when students add a finger, that they relax a finger. So if you add a finger, you have to relax the other fingers. I don't want to accumulate tension in your hand. And that's basically it. My students play scales at every single lesson. As soon as they can play. As soon as they can play that. Then we move to book 3, and they have scales printed up to major and minor, up to 4 sharps and 4 flats. And I teach these scales in book 4. I start them in book 3, actually. So by the time they're in book 4, and we only play up to the 3 sharps and 3 flats, because once you get to 4 sharps and flats, I want my students to use the universal fingering that works for all keys. I don't want them to use it at first for 2 sharps and 3 sharps, 2 flats, 3 sharps, because I want them to learn where the notes are on their cello and not just know a formula. And once again, I sometimes make them name the half steps, which they hate. They think I'm torturing them. That's my job. That's why their parents pay me to torture them in such ways. So I'm kind of strict about that. And then somewhere in book 4, my students are usually starting thumb position. We've started to play book 1 songs in thumb position, and they're learning basically the basics of thumb position. So then when they've gone up to 3 sharps and 3 flats, we go back and we play every scale. So this might take another 2 or 3 months, and we add the 3rd octave. And we use the standard fingering. 2 notes, 2 notes, and then 3 notes. 4th finger is not invited. Pinky is not invited. And whether or not you play 1-3 or 1-X2 is entirely up to you. Both are acceptable. So it's a personal choice. But anyway, a group of 2 notes, a group of 2 more notes, and a group of 3 notes. Yeah. Um, so the main thing I want my students to accomplish when they do this is to remember that the finger doesn't find the note. The arm takes the finger to the new location. And your first finger should stay the same shape for the whole third octave. So this is the shape of my first finger. The arm shifts. My finger is the same shape. Yeah. I also want the first finger slightly on the inside of the string. Not if this string were a clock, not at 12 o'clock, but maybe more like 1 o'clock, just slightly to the inside. You will feel the tip of your finger touching the fingerboard on the inside of the fingerboard, not on the outside of the fingerboard. We don't want you feeling the fingerboard, this part of the fingerboard on the A string. We want you feeling with the tip of your finger this part of the fingerboard. Have you ever noticed that a lot of cellos have scratches in them over here? Especially old cellos. That's because people shift on the wrong side of the string and they fall off. Or they shift with their finger and not their arm and you fall off. So you want to shift on the inside of the string a little bit, and you want to feel the fingerboard with the tip of your finger as you go up. So why don't we do this with no bows, just together, starting on first position, 4 fingers D, and let's use 1, 3 for our first group. And then the next group, you can either use, I use 1, 3, but it's okay to use 1, 2. Personal opinion. So here we go. So your first finger is already round. This is in fact, my first finger is already on the inside of the string. And this is the shape I want it to be all the way up. Even up here in korai, I keep the same shape of my first finger. So here we go. 4, shifting on the inside of the string to 1, 3, or 2 if you want. The same thing, you move your arm and the finger goes to the right note. It stays the same shape. You can either do a 3 or an X2, your choice. And then once again, we shift with our arm to the new location so that our first finger is the same shape all the way up. Yeah? Does that make sense to you? So let's play together with bows. We'll play 2 beats per bow. We'll go 1, 2, 1, 2. And I want you to concentrate. Right now, it's not so important to get every note in tune. In fact, you are all muted, so nobody will hear you anyway. What I want to see is the action, the proper action and the proper shape of your finger, okay? Don't worry if you play some clinkers. It doesn't matter. Ready, go. The arm moves the finger. The arm moves the finger. The arm moves the finger. There we go. Coming down, the arm does the shift. We shift on our old finger. That's the 1. And then the new finger lands on the note. On the old finger, and then the new finger lands on the note. I call that a slide pop. You slide your finger back and you pop down your new finger. Slide pop. So my students will probably spend a few months working on the top octave of all their scales that they have learned. Of course, sorry. They will play minor too, and so you'll have a half step here. Now I need to mention one thing about minor scales. I have a rule about minor scales, and it's called pop at the top. this probably doesn't work in any other language. When you get to the top note, you must pop off your extra fingers. You must release your fingers. In Spanish, liberar los dedos, because you have to reposition them on new notes. If you do not pop your fingers off, you get what I call the cat, a meow. Did you hear the cat? So always pop at the top. I teach this first C minor scale in both three when we pop at the top. Very, very important. Okay, when my students have totally learned their scales at the back of book 4, and they're really, really good at them, and they know how to name the half steps, and they really know the names of the notes and the location, they're just not playing patterns. Then I say, okay, today is the day that I reveal the secret fingering that works for all major keys. And later, I will reveal the secret fingering that works for all minor keys. So if you have an audition and the judge says, play me an F sharp minor scale, you won't freak out. You'll just put your first finger on F sharp and you'll know how to do it. So, but I never do this until they've gone through all their scales in the traditional way, because I actually want them to know where the notes are in their cellos. And Suzuki students are very often good guessers. So, so this is what you need to know about, this is what I do in English. The pattern is X, like the letter X. I don't know if that works in Polish or not. It works in Spanish. X, 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 C, 3. That's what you need to know. Can you go like this? X, X, C, 3. And the X stands for, each of these symbols is 3 notes of the scale. X stands for the extension, or extensión in Spanish. You can say it in Polish if you want for somebody. X is for extension. So if it's X, we do 1, X, 2, 4. C in English stands for closed hand. So instead of being extended, your hand is closed. And once again, or in Spanish, C for cerrada. 1, 2, 4, but without the extension. So X is 1, X, 2, 4. C is 1, 2, 4. And 3, or tres, is a group of 3 notes, a whole step plus a half step. If you end up in the lower part of the cello, that would be 1, 3, 4. A 3. If you end up in this part of the cello, it might be a 1, X2, 3. In any case, there is a 3 invited. Whether you're playing 1, 2, 3, 4 or 1, 2, 3, there is a 3. All the other ones don't have any 3s. So X, X, C, C, 3. There are no open strings in this plan for scales, unless you're playing a C major scale. Just the first note would be an open string. Yeah? So let's say we're going to play a D scale. You find the lowest D on your cello with your first finger, and you play an X. Just watch this time. And then we can't play open G, so we go up to 4th position, we play another X. And then we play a C. And then we play another C, no extension. And the 3, for me, is always on the D string, the last group. And this will work for any key. It doesn't matter if there's 6 flats or 7 sharps. You can use this fingering. So it's very, very handy. and it develops agility and the ability to play all over your cello. So shall we try it together? Remember, when we begin and you go for the second note, you must move your thumb forward. Don't stick out your second finger, okay? So X, X, C, C3, and no open strings. Ready, go. Another X. Next string, C. Next string, C. Close, serrada. Same string, last group, 3. 1, 2, 3. Yeah? Does that make sense to everybody? If you're in book 1 or 2, it will make sense to you someday. That will be in your future. It's very, very important that you let go of fingers as you add fingers. For example, it's so much easier to shift if you don't have 4 fingers down. Having 4 fingers down is like driving your car with the brakes partly on. It gets in the way. So I just have my 4th finger, and now I shift. And I'm letting go of my 1st finger, so now it can get ready to go to the next string. I actually get it over the next string. I get my 1st finger ready. Now remember, I already have my 1st finger, the right correct shape. It's on the inside of the string. The tip of my finger is touching this part of the fingerboard. Yeah? Can we try that all together? Let's go slowly, half notes. So everybody has the lowest D on your cello? Yep. Ready, go. Extension forward. Let go of your 1st finger. Relax your extra fingers. Shift up to G. Add a 2. Relax your 1. 1st finger ready. C. All right. Let's try a different one. Let's try E flat. That will be C, D, E flat. 2nd finger in 1st position, but we want our 1st finger on it. Now this time, we are not only going to play the 1st X on the C string, and then we will shift over to the G string because we have room. Whenever there is room, go to the next string. Okay? So here we go. E flat major. This has 3 flats in it, but who cares? We have the formula fingering. Here we go. 1st finger ready to go to the G string. Here we go. Thumb reaching forward. Now we go to 4th position for the C. And now we're ready to go to the D string. 1st finger ready. Yeah? And if you want to play the scale of C sharp major, which is 7 sharps, you don't need to freak out. X, X, C, C, 3. Okay? much time do we have, Maria?
We have 10 minutes.
Okay, third octave. So, let's say that we just finished the D scale. This is our 3, and this is our top of our second octave. What we want to do now is bring our thumb around, lightly on top, and we are going to slide up until our thumb gets to where our third finger was. So if you can point at your third finger and slide your hand up until your thumb gets there and still have your first finger down, that's the next note. Yeah? So your thumb will replace your 3. Thumb going here, first finger stays on. We shift with our first finger and our thumb until our thumb gets to where your finger was, right? We don't need to hunt for that note. We don't need to go on a scavenger hunt or a search and rescue mission. It's very easy if we replace our third finger with our thumb. Then we're just going to play in thumb position. Now, your third finger has to go where your thumb is on the way down. Yeah? So I want to give everybody a chance to try shifting up so your thumb is where your third finger was, and shifting back so your third finger goes where your thumb was. And you practice that action till you get good at it. And you will never miss it. I guarantee it. I guarantee it, or I will give you your money back. In Korai, there's a lot of shifts where there's no replacement. You just have to find the note. But whenever there is a replacement, you use it, right? So, like here. One replaces 2. 1 replaces 3. Always, if you can, you know that your replacements. Okay? So then my students, they go through all of the scales. C, C sharp, D. They start on D and go around till they come back. When you play the C major, you have to modify this first group. It's not going to be 1, X, 2, 4. It's going to be open 1, 3. Because it would be silly to put our first finger up here in the peg box and play. That would be kind of stupid. So we just play. And then we play X. For those of you who are up in the books, maybe you're in book 7, 8, or 9 or whatever, when my students use this universal fingering up to F natural, and starting with F sharp, I modify the top octave a little bit. I will show you. There's our second octave. I don't really want to go up here on the D string so high. So F sharp and higher, I just cross over and use my thumb. Use all my fingers, and then play the last group over here. And once again, there's a replacement. 3 replaces thumb. So the scales F sharp G, G sharp A sharp B, they're so high. I don't really want to be playing the D string that high, especially if your cello's not full size. It will sound pretty terrible. So I sort of modify it and play 2 groups on the A string, but I cross over as soon as I'm done with the second octave. I cross over and I do play my thumb. And I'm sorry, but there's not a harmonic for your thumb. You have to push your thumb down. So Right now, I have really good calluses, not only on my thumb, but on all 10 fingers because Kodai has so much things that require calluses. And you have to maintain them. If you take off 2 weeks and don't play it, then you have to like build your calluses up again. So a little bit tricky, a little bit tricky. We're almost out of time, but I must say that my students play scales in rhythms and various bowings, um, variations on their scales, and that makes you a stronger player because it sort of puts a strain on your brain. If you want to know the formula for melodic minor scale, it's 3 X C X 3. It's a palindrome. 3 X C X 3. Yeah? And then once again, you shift into thumb position the same way you did on the minor, and then you play a half step between 1 and 2. And you pop at the top and you play your minor scale in thumb position. So it will be 3 X C X 3. Now, coming down is really, really easy. Coming down minor, X X X 3 3. X X X 3 3. That's the easy part. X X X 3 3. And there you are. Yeah. I think we're almost out of time. Scales will develop your intonation and your control of your bow and rhythm and give you agility and the ability to play fast. The other thing I do with my students is they play with a drone. They play their scales starting in book 1 with drones. A drone is a pedal in Spanish. I don't know what it is in Polish. No doubt you do. But let me give you an example. I'm going to put on a drone.
But our students are familiar with drone, maestra.
Oh, good. Okay, I have a drone I was going to show you. Even my youngest students, intonation gets really good when they have a drone on. So even like when they're studying French folk song, they are playing the scale with French folk song on. And there's so many good ways you can use a drone. I don't know that I can access my drones. Oh, yes, I can. Here it is. So here's the swan. That's F sharp drone. Yeah, or tarantella. Or col nidra. Etc. Let me turn this off. Ooh! And get rid of it. And here we are again. Let me make the window big again. Oh, I don't know how to do that, but that's all right. So that's just a quick overview of scales, but the more scales my students play and the stricter I am about always playing scales, the easier cello playing is. And that's the point of playing scales, to make cello playing easy. So I encourage you to play scales. It's not just for your cello hand, it's for your bow, to develop your bow too. There's so many things that you can do. So that's just a quick run through of my scale plan. And like I said, it took a lot of scales to learn to play kodai. That's for sure. I don't know if anybody has any questions or we're out of time.
We, of course, have time for asking if someone wants to ask something to Maestra Balatero.
Okay, let's see if I can.
Perhaps I have the first question. Why is, maybe you can repeat this for me and for everyone. Why
Yes.
is so important to play scales?
Um, because our classical music is built on scales. Those are the building blocks of all our pieces. So um, when you're when you're playing scales, it's relatively simpler than playing a piece of music, and so it's easier to develop our intonation, our sound, our abilities using a scale because it's something simple than always trying to work just with the piece. And you will get a really good feeling for where all the notes are on your cello, especially once you get the universal scale going. You get very good at playing all over the fingerboard, and you won't be afraid of heights, playing up high on your cello. Um, so I think that I was not taught to play scales much as a child. I mean, they would make me play scales once in a while, and or if I had an audition and I had to play a scale, my teacher wasn't that good about scales when I was a teenager. I didn't really get very good at scales until I was in the university, and it made a difference. It made a difference. Um, some teachers say you should be spending half your time on scales. I'm not sure that I do that now, but I do play scales, and all my students do. And I do take scales. You can extract the scales that are in your piece, um, that you're working on, and take those scale passages and work them separately. So anyway, it's all to make it easier, and that's the whole point of practicing anyway. We practice to make cello playing easy. That's the reason we practice, right? If you don't practice, cello playing is really hard. It's really hard. But if you
Maybe,
practice,
maybe some of the students would like to ask or share with all of us if you've seen some changes before playing the scales and now after that you play scales. Can someone share their experience to us?
Me.
the
Uh,
thing,
okay, when I first started playing cello, I started in a traditional school. And I
mhm,
remember my teacher, he would always like, he would give me scales, but he would mainly like focus on the repertory and preparing for the exam.
mhm,
And so which I'm like, oh yeah, just practice scales, but just focus on the repertory, like shift them with the fingers and whatever, blah blah blah. And
mhm.
then when I got out and I changed here into Suzuki, I remember my Maestra Maria, she would like teach me the scales, and he also like taught me the whole scales of the whole diapason.
Yeah,
Music
one
board.
finger scales. That's another
Yeah,
topic.
yeah,
One
and
finger scales. If we had more time, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
and
and it just
I.
made it easier to play. Like when in my repertory, when I started like with the thumb scales
Mhm.
and just like going higher into fifth, sixth position, it made it way more easier than with my other teacher was like, oh yeah, just play it, like you should do it like this, and I'm like, but I don't understand even how. But like, no,
Exactly.
just do it. And I'm like, I don't know how. So I
I
thought,
remember as a teenager studying cello that my teachers complained, but they didn't always offer solutions. And they seemed more focused on me getting the right notes in tune, not how you do it and whether you were making a good sound and controlling your bow. So it's not just fingers and finding the notes. It's much more than that. Um, but then later, in university I studied with a teacher that was just really strict about scales, and I only played scales for about 3 months. Um, if I want you to remember anything about this workshop, it is that as you go up, please release your fingers. You don't always have to take them off the string, but make sure there's no pressure on them. And I certainly don't want them released really tall, throwing away your fingers. It might look like they're still down, but there's no force in your fingers. That's the main thing I want you to remember from today, because that can change your life as a cellist. Yeah. And if you release your fingers, you'll have less tension in your hand, and you might still be playing cello when you're my age. Yeah. If you have a lot of tension in your hand, you might quit cello before you get to be my age. Yeah.
I have another question. Can you repeat the pattern for the minor scales? It was like
Yes.
three C.
Yep. It's a palindrome. Palindromo. It's 3 X C X 3. Going up, ascending. Going down, X X X 3 3.
When you say 3, you mean like 1, 2, 3, or just?
No, I mean 1 3 4. If you're in first through fourth position, 1 3 4.
Oh, okay.
Or if you're higher, this pattern, whole step, half step, with a third finger on top.
Oh, okay. Thank
All
you.
of the other ones don't have threes in them. They're 1 2 4, open and closed. So
Thank you.
three meaning 3 notes, and one of them is a third finger. Yeah. Anybody else?
I think that that's all, Maestra Balatero.
Okay.
Please, guys, open your microphones and let's give an applause to our special guest, Maestra Balatero.
Thank you. Pleasure. Now I'm warmed up, so you know what I'm going to do now? I'm going to go practice.
And we thank Maestra for being here with us, sharing with your knowledge about the scales. I think we've learned a lot, and we make sure again the playing scales is the most beautiful and the most better thing that we can do for our cellist life. So I'm gonna ask you guys to bring your cello to the screen. Let's hug our